Quick here before we get started. I think it's important, but so 2 months ago, my boss, in his 2 weeks notice, got a better job, better pay, etc., which opened up the director of claims position. They came to me and said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "Not that." I said, as Lynn knows, I specialize in property. That's my thing. I'm really, really good at it. And I said, yeah, I would, the goal was to move me into a property director position. Okay, well, we don't want to make a mistake, Mark, because the guy before you really didn't want to do it. And, then 2 days later, hey, Mark, we'd like to offer you, because I said if the company needs me to do it, okay, I'll do it. So they offered me the job. You can't say no. You can't. And then it's been absolutely insane. So if Lynn came up to me today and said, "Hey, Mark, I got a good job you might be interested in. Okay, it's going to be 20,000 more a year, but you're going to work 12 hours a day, and your stress level is going to double. You want it?" And I'd say, "No way, thank you." Yeah, thank you. So the reason I'm bringing this up is sometimes, like today, okay, when my afternoon schedule was open, I had a 3 o'clock meeting and a 3:30 meeting. Everything was set up perfectly. I'm on a call for my 3 o'clock meeting. My boss, the COO, says, "Hey, Mark, are you going to join us for the most important meeting of the day, which is our quarterly meeting with our friend peers that started at 3. I said, not on my calendar. Okay. And I said, sure. I dropped the call, hopped in, and she said, "Oh, by the way, you're going to have to present to the group of senior officers an update on your department." And I go, "I'm not prepared. I wasn't even on the meeting invite." And then she says, "Well, that's okay. I'll do it for you," which you don't want your boss to say.
Right.
And so we argue back and forth. And then she finally said, "Let me do it. Your 3:30 meeting is time sensitive. Go." And I went, because I had no idea what I was going to talk about. Okay, so we're going through the meeting, waiting for 3:30. At 3:23, they said, "Okay, that wraps up that section. Okay, now for the highlight of the meeting, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Miller to give an update." So, yeah. So I won it. Okay, brought out the A+ game, did my thing. And then at 3:29, I said, "Thanks, guys, for your time. Any questions?" And left. Went to my 3:30. And so there's going to be times that I will come in like today where yeah, I'm on the phone. So I'm leaving, I get a call, I hop in the car, get another call, emergency complaint, I pull in, hang up the phone, running, just so everybody's aware if I'm not there or I miss something, I call you Susie,
We will gently catch you and guide you.
You come to a meeting, you're kind of out of it.
It's not alcohol.
You might wish it was, however.
Should we start expecting even more white to keep coming in the next few months?
It's a lot.
I'm sorry, why?
Just
You haven't.
little cutesy fun stuff like that to kind of round out your day.
Yeah.
That's my husband's life too.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
just, it's
It's not
a
one
lot.
thing, it's another.
He
And
travels a lot too. I've been traveling and trying it out. So.
Yeah, but at least, hey, it's out there, okay, so no whispering behind my back,
no,
no spreading rumors, right?
we'll be very upfront and say, "Mark, you're not with us here, so let's get you to the point you need to be."
Well, and the other thing is the general public.
Is
That's
just
what I think.
yeah.
Wow, Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some interesting people out there.
It is a time,
We're
isn't it?
going straight at them, with the general public, which adds like that little spice, little
Mhm.
element of fun,
Mhm.
so anyway, thank you for listening. We're good, all right, so we're gonna call it
I'm just
a
gonna go ahead and.
special agenda meeting.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen, Barb,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
and then we have Tracy on line.
Yep.
And I'm here.
Oh, and Tina, sorry, I marked you off and then I put you back on.
And just for the record, because we are recording this, because we're broadcasting live through YouTube, so that public, if they so desire, can watch live. It is not legal for Tracy as a trustee to vote since she is remote, but she certainly can participate in every other way. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody who might be listening understands that, and we do recognize that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome.
So then we're gonna open the floor to any public participation. Okay. Then we'll move on to number 3, which is gonna be planning, starting with the retreat outline,
Yeah.
which is gonna be the colors.
This is gray. This is your gray and the pink agenda packet, yes. I did update the outline, as I'm trying to do every month as we make decisions and move forward. So I'm not gonna go over every last line, but I did add in the fact that we had targeted May 4th for our actual retreat day. And then we had talked about several different venues, and I didn't know if anybody had opportunity to make contact with any of those, because I don't remember who had said, oh, I know so-and-so or whatever. If so, you can give me an update or just tell me I need to have a scout report.
I spoke with Gina Bold about the community room, and she did send me a facilities. It's online, but she just forwarded it to me.
Okay.
The forms.
Yeah.
But then she had suggested that I contact Mr. White the following day through email and just ask him to possibly waive the fees because the library is a partner and they've always done so much. So I
think he'd say that.
you might want to reach out because I should say never, but he didn't respond to me. And
He's
so,
busy, so's Gina.
and well, Gina was very sure that he would respond the next day.
Mhm.
And he did not, and so I've been waiting, sorry, I'm thinking, I can't. It's a fidget toy for me, I can't remember what day I messaged, it was one day last week, so I have not heard, I do have the forms, but it's $30 an hour to rent the community.
Okay.
So, I was just waiting, I don't also want to bother him by sending him another message.
You want me to contact?
That is up to you.
I think.
Well, I was gonna say, and I don't know if at this time even, administrators take a break and are on vacation.
They do. and the
Yeah.
reason Gina knew he was coming in the next day was the only reason like I went ahead and reached out.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bother and
Yeah.
like I do know they're busy. I
Yeah.
know though she usually handles a lot of the kind of
They're
side
very
work.
busy.
Mhm.
But I
So,
think, though, I do think that would be a good place because it's central.
It is, yes, this is true.
So for there from like 8 to 2, like the setup and cleanup, that's 6 hours, so that's
It's,
$180.
yeah,
That's
I was
cheap.
gonna say, and add a janitorial fee, I mean, that's very reasonable, so, I don't think we'd end up making a huge issue of that small fee to help them cover their costs of, cleanup or that kind of thing, but, we have some time before May. I mean, I know that in different venues, you sometimes need to get on their calendars. So, I'm not concerned that it didn't happen, within 2 weeks or whatever. So if you want to just reach back out whenever you think is appropriate to say, hey, did you get my message of, whenever, and if you want to send the facilities information, the form along to me. No, I can take care of that part. You don't have to do that.
I just wasn't sure about the date and of course if it would be available
Right.
until we filled the form out. even.
Oh.
So it was, I wasn't
Which
sure
first? Yeah.
which to do first, and Dina said definitely reach out to Mr. White first,
Okay.
and so that was kind of what but I can send the form on to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah, and I would just say for consistency's sake, if, if it's a message that's kind of sitting in his queue, keeping one person being the contact for now might be the best thing, so they don't,
Okay.
doesn't get confused about, well, so-and-so reached out to me, is this the same thing? I just would be a little concerned about
And
that.
I know they're in the midst of like curriculums and stuff like that, because that's why Gina had
Was-
actually called me first,
Yeah.
was to talk about that, so, they, like you said, and I know they're busy, plus they're supposed to be off too.
Yeah.
A little bit in July, so.
Yeah, okay.
And we don't want to bring capital meetings.
Yeah, we'll save the big guns for last.
So I'm just looking at, I don't know if you look at Southern State.
I have not looked at that.
So on Southern State, if you fill out this form, and it says nonprofit, which we are, right?
Mhm.
There's no fee for the community room, but there could be additional charge for outside of business hours.
Okay.
Cleanup, I'm assuming if we use the Patriot Center, which I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. It's 175.
Okay.
And then technical staff is 50 and then 30 an hour. So it's a little bit more than the Western route.
Okay, well,
We could get Western.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think I would like to see if we can pursue that to some kind of resolution, and if it's a no, then we go
My
further.
comment with that. I'd rather do it at the school, because Southern State gets money from all the school
Right.
districts for college credit.
Yeah.
plus.
Mm,
And, there's so many people that think the state pays for that. No, they don't.
mhm.
The school pays for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And Georgetown is the only one that does it internally.
I did not know that.
Meaning they come to the school.
No, their teachers are accredited and they do it right in their.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
And,
I didn't
yeah.
know.
They told us they're, out Western.
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
There's at
we
least two
try
that
to
I know.
pursue it, but it's almost like the teachers don't get it.
Oh,
I mean, they're not gonna make extra money,
yeah.
and they're not thinking the students, they're only thinking of themselves.
Yeah.
So I told them, I said, listen. You can go to UC because they don't hire full-time professors anymore. You can go there and teach. And get $100 a class.
I used to be an adjunct professor at Thomas More. Could I do that at the school? Could I teach a class at the school? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm,
Well, you substitute, I mean.
Western.
yeah, or Eastern or any of the
Eastern,
schools.
yeah, you
We
might.
have, one of the math teachers teaches, and then the
You
science.
can't,
teacher.
it's not on the library, yeah. Because I even offered to substitute for free,
Mm,
and I can't,
Hmm,
because I'm on the board.
The business program is out of the southern state. That's who employs those people.
I contacted them just to do like an evening adjunct class and they said they didn't need it. They
Yeah.
needed math. And I'm like, I don't teach
yeah,
math.
don't do
I
math,
don't
huh?
do math.
If no one else noticed, I want just to point out, Sue joined us. Thanks, Sue. Can you hear us well enough?
Yeah, I can.
Good, good.
Oh, hi, Sue.
What time? Do you know what time?
She's probably been in for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm at the hospital, so we'll see,
Uh,
we'll see how long I get to stay on here.
Well, we appreciate your willingness to try. Thank you.
Are things going good? Better?
A little better. They got him, they got an NG tube started for his blockage, but he's in AFib, so we're getting ready to move up to the 3rd floor to put him in cardiac. It's been a very rough day. Prayer. Appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got date, time, place. We know what the content is going to be. That hasn't changed any. I don't have an updated list of educational topics for you yet. That was one thing I did not get to while I was away on vacation, but that we'll be finalizing that with managers. So we have some assignments and a time, our time frame, our schedule. And then I guess the next thing really is doing the consultant and updating you on that. I did give you a chart. So instead of just listing some names this time, I gave you a little bit more information on the tan or buff colored piece of paper. The different options, I've talked before about what the state library has to offer for retreat planning. We had the proposal from Blaze and Associates as well. And I did actually have a follow-up call with SWAN, which is our regional library system. That's Southwest Ohio and neighboring libraries is what that stands for. And she being Gail, the director of SWAN, reminded us that we have a certain amount of training free from them because we are contributing members to that regional library organization. She did not feel that while she has done strategic planning, she did not feel that she would be the right person to do it for us, but she has contacts in the library world. So she said that by August 2nd, she will have reached out to some of her other contacts, specifically someone who does consulting and strategic planning for libraries, and let me know, what they might be able to do, because she was actually talking about using our training subsidy through SWAN to offset the cost of bringing in one of her contacts from somewhere else. And I said, I know that there can be extreme variances in the kinds of services offered by a facilitator. And so depending upon what we want to do, our membership fee in SWAN may not cover someone completely. I wanted to assure her that we were not going to hold them to, our 4 hours of training free if they had to bring somebody in and the fees were actually higher. So, I guess the question becomes really, because this person that would come through them, if it worked out, would be library oriented instead of being, a general facilitator, business consultant. Is that something that we want to wait on making a decision about a consultant until we hear back from them? So that means it would be the next meeting, the August meeting, before we could make a decision. I have not yet heard back from OhioNet. And even though I didn't list, I don't know why I forgot to list Kirkpatrick Services as its own entity under number 2 on the gray sheet. I did give you details about that proposal, and I actually included the proposal, one of the green ones, in the packet. So you could see the information that she provided. And I think I actually mentioned at the June board meeting that I had made contact with her and we had scheduled a phone call. So this is what came out of the phone call. So, there's what we have so far, and I don't know if there's anything that you want to ask me about in terms of a consultant, or, where you would like to go with this at this time.
The Kirkpatrick sounds really interesting to me because it is a local business and it's supporting local business. And I guess my question my suggestion would be, let us narrow down to 2. And maybe we could bring them in and interview them either virtually or maybe with Kirkpatrick, she could come in, and I'd like to see her resume. Like, what type of organizations has she worked with? Has she worked with something similar to like the library? To see like maybe there's a template, something that she's done before. And that's another thing. I wonder if the OLC knows of any libraries that have gone through it, that they would kind of give us their skeleton plan that we could maybe glean from. You know what I mean? I don't know if they would or not, but I'm asking that.
When you say skeleton plan,
Kind of like their outline like how another county may have went through this process, like things that they have, things that they talked about, their timeline, like lessons learned, like we thought it would take 3 months, it took 7 months, things like that.
Mhm.
And maybe things that we haven't thought of that need to be considered. So I would like to interview the top two. I think that would be a great thing to do. And 18,000 is a lot better than 30. So just seeing that.
And the 30 was the low end of the,
Yeah, that's
I'm
like
just,
a bare
I'm gonna say,
right.
yeah.
So real quick, going back to content, I know we talked about the product, the mission, the strategic plan. I would like to see like a marketing plan as part of that. And maybe, Sarah, you probably not gonna miss it, like a financial, like a pipeline forecasting, which is hard to do with state funding. I know it's like private venture, but, and you may already have that, but, kind of like what's our pipeline?
Well,
We just know what the state rolls out in like December.
yeah.
Like a growth plan, maybe like a financial growth plan.
And I would say that may be something, our broad strategic plan may
Would cover
lead to
those,
those.
yep.
I mean, they would cover them,
Like
and then we may want to
like
do even smaller, more detailed marketing plan, because that's actually one of the things that our marketing coordinator, the one we recently
Mhm.
hired, is working on as she's dealing
Huge.
with,
Yeah, that would be a huge piece for her.
immediate needs. It's one of those things, she's building the entire list, and we're doing meetings with her to get us there. So
Yeah.
I could see that being its own kind of little
Like a little
mini
sub, And
yeah,
maybe there's a few areas that would fall into that, like financial marketing, whatever.
all that kind of
All that
thing.
fun jazz. Communications plan or something like that.
Yep.
Lynn, any concern about overkill with some of these?
You mean what they offer, what each of them offers? So, I know I've discussed that the state library's plan is very structured. I mean, we have to go through the Sandra Nelson strategic planning for results. We have to follow that prescriptive plan and all their guidelines. And I feel like that is too much for us. I mean, we would not be able to get it done in this time frame that we would like to have this done. I'm not going to say it would not be a worthwhile thing to do, but I think it would add too much extra work on a staff that's already feeling like.
So the onus is on.
The
staff.
onus
There's
is on
the
the staff,
consultant is not
absolutely.
doing it. You're doing the work.
Absolutely, we're doing, so we're doing,
Yeah.
and I think there's a balance, because if you just turn it all over to a consultant and say, you do it, where's our skin in the game,
Right.
right?
You don't want to do all or nothing. Yeah.
Right. So I feel like that's more than we can do at this time. I'd love to say we would have, $60,000 to have what Blaze and Associates is offering to, because it's not just the strategic planning part, it's the leadership development
Yes.
part. But I'm also not sure that in the next 2 years, we're ready for that deep a drill. I think we need to get to the plan stage first before we start doing all that level of implementation. And that would still be a lot on us, even though they're going to be there at every step of the way to make sure we're staying on task, and kind of accountability partner, and they also have a structure that they use, which is good. But I believe that someone structured has to be malleable enough to fit the unique needs
Yes.
of the organization that they're going to be helping
Right.
out. I think that Swan may definitely have somebody, within their contacts that could bring in, and they would obviously have the library piece, they would really understand special needs of a library. And we'd, like you said, we would really need to see, well, who else have they done this for, and how have they done it? And are they willing to kind of go the way we're going? Obviously we don't know everything, and we're willing to hear suggestions and say, oh, we really should be doing this that way. I'm all for it. This is what we have planned here is me and the management team kind of going, this is what we think will work. But we're not
I just wanna
experts.
back up a little
Yeah.
bit here too. The reason I said I wanted it at the school is because Mount Orb School has always worked very closely with the library. Southern State has not. They have their own library. And when Chatfield closed after the first semester, they transferred all those students to Southern Hills. So I'm talking about what they're getting from the school is probably between Fayetteville and Mount Orb, over $300,000. A lot of money. So that's why I prefer having it at the school. But they don't encourage the Mount Orb library usage. They have their own library. Yeah, they do. I had a grandson that went there. He took his English class because you can go to the college and you can get a full year in one semester. Wow, a full year of English in one semester.
My son finished on Monday.
Yeah.
If you're there for a whole year, you get both
done.
years in.
Mhm.
And he said they never, ever encouraged him to use the library other than one right there at the college.
Sure. Trent did it all online.
Hmm.
Trent did everything online.
So we don't
I
know
think
the
he did
pricing
too,
for this
yeah.
one yet. do
So we do not know the pricing for the Swan. I suspect it would be the least amount of all of them.
So I'm not
Would be my
running
guess.
into them, okay?
Oh, no.
You know, but they get enough, they get enough with the
Yeah.
college credits.
Yeah.
Yep, understood.
So
Yeah.
Oh,
we're gonna spend money.
And you say Ohio Net, go back, is
Still,
to get with.
it's still to get back with me, but typically OhioNet does more. They do classes and trainings. They don't do consultations. That's because State Library and Ohio Library Council tend to pick up, those bigger customized. So I wasn't really expecting anything, but I just wanted to have another library organization with which we already have contact, to tap into. So there's that. And so I saw Mark, nod his head when Tina brought up the narrowing it down to a couple and doing some interviewing. So is that, and I know that Melissa is very amenable to coming and doing whatever presentation to show you a little something, so if that's something that we want to make as part of our special meeting in August, we can make that the focus of August. So that we can, and in the meantime, I would hopefully be able to arrange someone from Swan's contact to do the same thing and get them each, I don't know,
So it sounds like those two might be the one
places.
Drake, yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes should be plenty.
Okay, so they get 10-minute presentation each and then you guys get to
3
whatever.
minutes or 3 minutes.
3 minutes,
Q&A or
okay.
something, yeah.
Okay,
We just have to be very good stewards of the public to whatever we're investing in these people, we have to be able to show the public that there's going to be a good return on investment. So that's kind of how we have to explain that. And that would be good for the presentation. Like, how is your $18,000 going to, how will we not only financially, but strategically get a return on investment from that $18,000? Does that make sense?
Hey, Lynn.
I hear Tracy.
Me. I just checked the OhioNet site because I thought I'd seen something about consulting there.
Okay.
And they have like at ohionet.org/consulting-services. They have specifically one for strategic planning. So it might be worth a look.
So the address again, the web address?
ohionet.org/consulting-services. services.
Dashes.
Yep, and they've got a whole list of different kinds of things they can do.
Well, that may be our second. It depends upon what we come up with, Swan. I'll figure that out, but we will add that to the August.
Oh, wait, Nancy Kirkpatrick is with Swan. Or I mean, with OhioNet.
It's Melissa Kirkpatrick. It's a
Oh, it's a
local.
different-
Oh,
That's funny.
okay.
That'd be weird.
That'd be awesome.
Okay. All right. So I guess we have our plan for continuing with the consultants.
And so, Mark, do you think that after we meet with them, we would be able to make a decision that night, or should we discuss and make a decision at the next meeting? What do you
Well,
think?
Since it's out in May, and we have some time, I don't think we need to rush that.
Make a
evening.
decision that day. Okay.
And then, we can, push the following meeting, make a decision. And then that gives us, 30 days to get back to them, and then,
That's a good idea. And then if we think of other questions, we could say, hey, Lynn, here's some
Yeah.
other things we want to review and consider. Okay, I like that idea.
I like that.
Decision in September is the goal.
And then the last thing, we're in succession planning.
Yes. So we did schedule a meeting, we being the management team, to address just that issue, which has bearing upon the retreat and doing a strategic plan, but is not, a line item, in the retreat itself, really. And I've actually been discussing this with the potential consultants as I've had conversations to say, okay, here's one of the driving factors and why we want to come out with these working plans so that have the next group of leadership have their fingerprints on it, more than I do. So they've actually, I think I've gotten good feedback that, people think that we're actually kind of ahead of the game in terms of doing this as compared to lots of other libraries that they have
We are.
seen. So I'm thinking,
It's because it's proactive board and proactive leadership.
yeah, so
Yes.
So that's, that's what we're going to do with between summer reading program and everybody's vacations. August 28th was about soonest we could possibly do this and have it make actually have time to consider things and start making some specific tentative dates for major transitions in the leadership. When do we think we need to get another manager on board? When do we need to get the next manager on board? When do we, so that would then be, what's that? It does.
It's, it's just a natural progression.
Absolutely it does. And so, we will take that information and, obviously I'm going to target having it ready in some form to give to you in September as well. So you can see what we've potentially gotten in mind, and then we can go from there and see if what you think we might be missing and move forward from there. So. And I did have a message from Tanya. She sends her apologies. Her upright freezer decided it was a good time to quit. So, yeah, not a good time. Oh, but she does think they caught it before they lost the meat. Yay. Yep. So ice and ice cream were a problem. So, and Heather did get home, and yes, the regular meeting is open, so she might jump in, but if she's listening on YouTube, I am not getting in the middle of that, Mark. I'm not getting in the middle of it. So if you want, I can pause recording or anything in between meetings, or if you're ready to go right on. Okay.
Party going.
So we need to adjourn the next meeting.
Yeah, did you adjourn? You're out. Okay.
So now we are in the regular board meeting, company board meeting. So we'll start with that call to order.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
and then we have Sue and Tracy virtually.
Any public participation?
Well, may I take this time? Sunday, I was invited to Lake Winnetka to celebrate Earl Showalter's 89th birthday. And it was packed. So all week I've been getting calls now from people. When are you people gonna recognize him? And I said, we're working on it. And Lynn and I talked about, I found some old pictures.
Yes, yep.
And I told Harold, I said, Harold, we're working on something to recognize you. And he teared up.
Aw.
Because he's been over now.
Is he?
And he and Mary Ray, like Mary Ray doesn't even hardly know people.
Mm.
And he said, Kathleen, you don't have to do that. And I said,
We
yes,
do.
yes, we do, Harold. Because I don't really think any.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Thank you.
If it had not been for him. All over the county, like this building here, this whole piece of ground was nothing but a briar patch. And all that owned it, and all that was my son Jimmy's. So they said, Kathleen, why don't you go to him? So I said, okay, he said, we don't need no building up there, we can they can use the school library, and I said, oh, you can't have the same kind of books in the school that you would have in that library. And, well, what do you mean? I said, you've got young children, you know, you don't want to have the same kind of books.
And.
So, and I said, and by the way, we can pay you so much for the land and you can donate part of it, because I said, you can donate that land right down on the taxes, because I didn't have a. They live down on, you wouldn't have realized they were multi-millionaires, but you wouldn't have known it. They lived in an old farmhouse and run down, and so he donated part of it and got a little bit of money for it. And then he was so proud of what he'd done. It's got a tribute out there to him and his wife. And Sardinia, it was hard to get something in Sardinia. Linings did the one in Mount Orland. In Georgetown, we already had the building there, but it worked to keep it updated all the time. But I'd just like to see him. I don't think it would really mean a lot to him.
And I think we all would agree with that as well.
That were not in the board.
You know, I didn't get my packet. I tell you what, the mail around here anymore is just. I didn't get mine.
I know it was the last month, right?
Last month, Sue and I, well, we got it the last minute, I think.
Okay.
But the month before, we didn't even get one. And
Maybe I should know it from some other person.
Or hand over them.
everything. And then you wonder if they get lost down there.
I received 4 packets instead of 1. I'm kidding.
Really?
Kathleen, my comment was it fell off the conveyor belt and they'll find it in a month or so and depend on. No, because that's just it. I
Well,
don't
they
remember
take
if
our
it's a
money.
difference Which branch you go to, because everything goes to Cincinnati, never comes back, so.
Yeah. Who knows where
My
it
son
is?
was
Yeah.
Harold, a board member, but he also had his degree in library science.
Yes, I remember that.
And he was the librarian. Well, when he first came to Fayetteville, it was my junior year in high school. He was our music teacher. And then he went on and he was our English teacher and he was excellent. Then he was the librarian, 41 years in this school district here before he retired. Wow. And but then after he retired from here, Wasn't it was it Adams County, the library somewhere in Adams
Yes,
County?
he did Adams County
The
Public.
record,
Yeah,
I do remember that too.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
But it would mean a lot to him.
absolutely.
Yeah, actually, it was the only thing sitting on my desk that I left there when I went on vacation, so that it would be on the top of things when I came back. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to approval of minutes for June 2023 special and regular board meetings.
I'll move.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Barb.
Yes.
Tina,
Yes,
Tabitha. Gotta get used to saying that.
not lost anymore.
Mhm.
It's kind of a comes from the team, so.
All right, number 4, correspondence.
That was one of the things I handed out this evening was the printed list of correspondence. And I typically start out with what the Public Library Fund distribution for the month is. Typically, we get that by the 15th of the month. It's direct deposited into our accounts. So it's actually almost exactly the same amount as we got last month, but this is the first distribution of the new budget year. And yay, legislators, thank you very much for putting the public library fund at 1.7% of the general revenue fund as permanent law instead of us having to, go and advocate for keeping it there every other year when we have to go to the state and ask them for whatever's coming in the state budget. However, that said, the governor did sign the budget bill, but he did veto 40 some lines in it, and there were parts of it that may impact the public library fund. And so on August 8th, 2nd, I don't remember anymore how many more meetings got added to my calendar in August, but early in August, Ohio Library Council will have a webinar for us where their fiscal consultant will have gone through and made some assessments about how the new state budget actually will impact the public library fund, whether there are new taxes that may reduce the general revenue fund in total, or whether that we've been held harmless. So that will be interesting to see what's coming there. And August 3rd, there it is. I have something else on August 2nd, so that's why that date was sticking in my head. I did include in your packets a copy of the cover letter that I sent to the County Budget Commission. You may recall that the budget proposal that I put together and you pass no later than May of every year not only goes to the county commissioners because they are our taxing authority, but it also goes to the county budget commission, which is made up of the auditor, the treasurer, and oh my goodness, my brain is just not working. It's not because I took a new job and have all these things happening to me at this time. Prosecutor, they make up a county budget commission, and they're the ones who decide how the PLF is split between the two library systems in the county. So our budget has to go to them as well. They're the ones who actually act upon it. That group, while I have asked them, and said told them of my willingness to present our case to them, they've stuck with that 62% to us and 38% to Union Township Public Library, because that was the percentage it was at when they all came into office pretty much, and they felt comfortable leaving it at that point. So I have not been contacted. Obviously, August is coming up when that meeting is when they meet about these budgets, but I haven't yet had a chance to contact them and see whether they actually will hear us in person at this time. They haven't since the pandemic, and I'm not sure that it will change, but I will let them know.
So that 62%, is that assessed every year or with every census?
So the 62, so, all right, there are two pots of money and they can get confusing, right? So the levy
Mhm.
that we have is split 72,
Yes.
28, because that's basically our, if we had gone alone in just our library districts, that's how
So
much we
that's
would
not
get.
based on population.
So correct, the
Okay.
6228 really comes from, at the time, and Doug Green was still in office as the auditor at that time. I can't remember who else was,
Probably
Gail Claire may have been the treasurer at that time. The amount of money that was just happened to be the percentage at the time. And we had come off of a time when there had been challenges to the budget commission by Union Township Library, and we went through a long process of working things out. And so they kind of said, okay, well, we agreed upon it for now. And so they just have
So it's just
ridden
kind
on
of-
it.
And when was that they did that? I'm just wondering.
Okay, so what was the first year we tried for like a levy? So 2007 or 8. So it was
So
right.
this has been based at 62 since 2007. Interesting.
Probably before, I'm trying to think when we were going through all that legal issues.
That I believe that was 2000. I think that 2004 was the year that they may have made the challenge.
Yeah.
Entered the loss. It was a lawsuit. Basically, we were going to have to go to the State Board of Tax
Right.
Appeals for this. So it was a long,
The reason-
time-consuming.
Yeah, the reason why I asked, and I'm not proposing anything, but just something to kind of think about, put a pin in it, but the growth of just non-ward alone
Mhm.
and Lake Winoka has been substantial in the past 15
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
And so it's a disservice to us to say it's 62%. And if we were to push that a little bit, that may bring that other library more willing to compromise. I'm not trying to but
We don't want to laugh and poo-poo because it's not, but
Right, no, I know, it's-
we've been there, done that, and
Depends on, there's some long-term history
Yes.
there on their
Yeah.
trustee board.
Yeah.
And that, and my thought to Lynn has been, and I know she said it will probably not happen while she's here, is when their director retires, which
close.
knowing her,
Not close.
no, she'll probably be there until she cannot.
Gotcha.
That we suggest, which is what we wanted to do for years, is we all become.
Oh,
a single,
absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
A
If you could
unit.
build a case, it would,
Yes.
it would help them as well.
yes.
And I would even, since we're doing this strategic planning, maybe that's something that the consultant could put a pitch together to show financially how it would benefit them, because when you show numbers and then they say no, then the community's like, wait.
Yeah,
this
why
could
would
help
you
us.
not?
And then
Yeah.
that's-
It's pretty
Yes.
hard to.
Yes.
There's some, it's a community thing, because
Gotcha.
there
There were
was a
some-
township
Some pretty big
library,
shops in
even
the
though.
county that were really
The
against that.
TV show Justified, Harlan County, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Nepotism and good old boy network, and that's a tough nut to crack.
well, and I think, we see similarities in school districts, right? School
sure.
districts want us to have, it's local control. I mean, it really is what it gets down to. Yeah. And I think there's something to be said for that, but I know that the argument that the Budget Commission has made when we've, presented this, has been that, well, yes, you may be serving more, but they'll be harmed because there's not enough money coming in.
Right.
For either,
Right.
yeah, really. I mean, we would do pretty well if all the money came to us. I mean, we could for a while
Right.
until it wasn't enough to
Right.
run all libraries, and so I think that that's another piece in addition to the political part that, makes them say, yeah, they're running on a shoestring now. And if any money was taken from them, they would not be able to serve their constituents. And so they're
If you
looking at
go
all
back,
citizens.
They hurried up and built the building in Russellville. And so many people thought that was part of ours.
Well, they still do occasionally.
do,
Yeah,
And,
so
it's, there were some big jobs in the county.
you know,
I mean, I grew up here, I know how it is.
Yeah,
but, you
yeah.
know,
well, I think you're right.
That's-
And that's why, you know, I think going,
numbers can't be biased.
not
you know.
going to the budget commission and being able to say, well, look, things have changed. Look how things have changed. Yes, and being able to make that.
And change is scary.
Oh, I know it.
It
Yeah,
is
absolutely it
So,
is.
that was sarcasm.
Yes, well,
Yes. And, but when you brought it up, the faces.
Yeah.
sorry,
And I
sorry.
know-
I'm trying to- I don't play poker. I do not play poker.
But like, in my organization, like, this is just non-conditional, like, it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to me.
There was a former prosecutor here who said every time that he, every year in the budget commission met, he was like, why can't we just keep one? And it was just like, and I have to also say that working with them on the levies made it more congenial.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
don't know that the board member, it was the same board member, I think, every time.
Mhm.
And was, I believe, would be 100% ready to
Start
merge. But I
conversation.
believe
Yeah.
that, yeah, so there's been some small movements.
Yeah.
so
It's very delicate.
It is, it really is. And I will say, you know, just to affirm what you're talking about, when in my interview for this job, and I don't know if you remember it or not, but one of the questions I asked the board who was interviewing me was, why are there two library systems in Brown County?
Then you got the same look.
I think they probably were, how do we say this? We don't scare her away, you know? So it's a long-term project, but I was gonna say, you know, that may be one of those things that as we finish up our $250,000 grant from the Department of Education and our board retreat things, that may be something that comes out of it. Absolutely. Zach's a good guy.
Then was just a little baby.
Naive in the ways of the world, willing to try anything until you go, oh, well,
When
that.
she was her last name, I thought. You know what her last name was? Brooke.
Oh, Lynn's, yes,
Yes, so she came here.
that's perfect.
It was, yeah. Yes, it was. So there's that. And then as far as, well, I mentioned Heather was at the Library Facilities Conference and she's joined in, glutton for punishment here. And then as far as general Ohio Library Council updates, I mentioned the fact that OLC will be giving us a detailed rundown of the impact of the new state budget. And that the last fiscal year for the state actually ended about 3.5% over their estimates. So, you know, money, we're not in a huge boom, but good and stable, and that's great. Another thing that was recently in Ohio Library Council updates was a notice that the American Library Association just received $1 million to support the fight against censorship, because we've been
Oh,
talking about
nice.
that whole topic, you know, over the last several months, and they are going to be using the money to double the staffing of its Office of Intellectual Freedom so that the additional staff can help mobilize and provide direction to grassroots organizations who are
So they
fighting
could
that battle. So
Help
how
us.
they could help us, yes. So you were ahead of your time by, you know, asking whether American Library Association would provide that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Quick question.
On the way.
Does the OLC, just in case they're asked, have a stance on the August ballot issue?
I have not looked. They
Okay.
typically
Do they-
do not
when it
get
comes to-
involved when
okay.
it comes to that kind of thing. So unless it's got a direct impact on public
Yeah. Maybe it's
libraries.
indirect, but not.
Yeah,
direct.
yeah. And then the last little piece of news, and this is just a proposal at this time, I'm not sure if the timeline, I've talked about the E-rate program that actually subsidizes internet service for schools and libraries, and we have to apply every year, and it's a government program. So there are lots of forms and lots of deadlines, but they are proposing a change to it. So the E-rate program, typically they fund it in 5-year segments. And they actually are now proposing a change that would allow public schools and libraries to use it to fund the purchase of Wi-Fi hotspots.
Oh.
You may recall that they had a special pandemic little pot of money to underwrite hotspots while, we had to all be separated and doing things online. But now they're kind of going, oh, maybe we should include this as a standard. People need to have internet access, and maybe they don't have the infrastructure to be able to do it in their communities. Government moves really slowly. So that's all I'm gonna say.
10 years later.
Yes.
So hotspots, they're ran off, they use the carrier data.
Yes.
So like Verizon or AT&T or whatever it was.
Yes, correct. Okay.
They really couldn't run during COVID for the
Yes.
students that
Oh, yeah, because they had to go all the way from home. Absolutely.
Yeah.
they use them.
On the five, financial reports by Miss Sarah.
Okey-dokey. Appropriation summary reports, I'm comparing month to June. Salaries, we're at $67,572. That was up slightly from May, just $576. Len and I were actually looking at these reports pretty closely, and for me, in my mind, I'm thinking salaries was everything, including our grants that we're paying from, but actually, this is just all regular employees. So if you take a look.
So it doesn't count the grants. like the
correct.
2
Yes,
grants.
so I was looking, and if you look under the grant, which is fund.
10.
210, you'll notice that for the month of June, $7,430 were paid out to our tutors, our outreach, our interns. So year to date, we've paid $11,545 out of the grant for salaries. So just a little side note for that. Employee fringe benefits, general $15,798. That's down $289.89 from the month of May. Library materials and information, $17,187.84. That's down $18,000 compared to May. We spent a lot of money in May, so just getting ready.
Getting ready for summer.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I missed purchasing contracted services, $8,469. That was also down 14,000. So spent a lot less money in June than we did in, which is a good thing. Total month to date expenditures out of all funds, $131,950. The bank reconciliation report, receipts for the month of June, $141,025.95. Those were my receipts. Payments, $144,044.67. I made lots of adjustments, $11,962.68 to be exact. Most of that was E-rate reimbursements. It had been a while since we received any of that money. So, receipts that I brought in, PLF $94,915, and then we received a reimbursement for the grant of $42,667.
So our balance looks like it's over $1 million. Are we in a position we could put more into our fund? Or do you think we need to keep where we are?
I'd like to finish out the fiscal year because we still have to do all of our reports, and then maybe take a look at that.
Maybe in Q4?
Yeah,
Are you talking about the money out of
the
the
75,000. Yeah, I would at least like to get
No,
the fiscal
sorry.
year.
Sorry, that's
Oh.
not what I meant. I meant
Sorry,
our
Ohio.
investment fund.
Oh, sorry, Ohio.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
People's Bank, I think we probably should leave it alone. Because
Okay.
People's Bank has 600,000.
650, yeah.
650-ish, so I think that's probably the comfortable spot, yeah.
Oh, the break down.
Yeah.
So maybe when we get up to like 800, we can maybe think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
Put
I think
more.
that's kind of where we were
Because I
at.
don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, you have no money, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Right.
But I also want our money to work for us.
I would say 650 is probably the sweet spot to keep
Okay.
in people's bank. If somehow we got a bunch of other money, then
750 or higher, and then
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Okay.
yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's
Outs-
nice to see the interest growth in there.
Yeah. Starter high is really picking up. Outstanding payments, all of the June checks have been cashed. I do have a few outstanding checks from our programs that I cut early. Summer reading program's still kind of wrapping up, so. The Bigfoot lady from 3-7 has not cashed her check yet. She did a program on Monday.
I was gonna say,
And she cashed that check already.
Maybe she
So,
lost it.
She did. I think she told Amber she
got a
can't find
little,
it.
she got a little prompt about it on Monday.
Oh, she talked to you about
I
it?
don't know
I
where
said-
it is.
I said,
So I
"Could
think
you-"
she literally went straight to the bank and cashed the other one right away, so.
So I don't
So
know.
that check and rewrite another.
So we're
Is
having
there
the
a law
same
around it?
issue with the STEM lab. She flat out said that an employee accepted the mail and they can't find it. So for me to stop check payment on a check is $35.
I was gonna say there's a cost.
There's a cost.
Yeah.
So
For their.
I feel like this woman needs to reach out to me and say, hey, I lost my check.
Right.
And I've emailed her several times and we've had staff, so the ball's kind of in her court to reach
Right.
out.
If she were to reach out to me, I would be like, I'm happy to resend it, but I'm gonna deduct 35.
Then that's what I told the STEM lab and she hasn't responded to my email.
Well, you don't wanna hold anyone responsible or accountable.
Well, the thing is with the STEM lab, they asked for payment 2 weeks ahead of time. And this woman, I think Mount Orif worked with her several times and she's very scattered. So for me, it's why would you ask for a check if your administrative side is a little lacking?
Yeah.
So payment in hand when you do the program.
We are very tough on the stock pays.
It's 30, it's 100.
She's awesome, but very scattered. Thank you, Heather.
That's what I said. So $150 check minus 35.
It's nice.
It's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, but I'm
Take
the ball's in
loss.
her court to reach out to me, I
Right.
feel.
No, I agree.
Why is this?
So, come, end of November, I don't want any messes with my year end, so then
Yeah.
that's a different ballgame then.
Yeah.
Something's gonna have to give.
So as far as checks, all June checks have been cashed. We do have, like I said, some program checks outstanding. Let's see, general fund cash flow. You'll notice that June, it still says estimated. I have fixed that on my end, so next month you'll see that that's corrected. PLF $94,915.50. Other receipts brought in $970.35. As far as revenue goes, we were pretty slow, not receiving much in June, so $95,885.85. I already went through the general fund expenditures when I went through the appropriation summary. So general expenditures was $115,150.14, leaving our general cash flow summary bank balance $790,088.45. So definitely in good shape. Cash summary by fund, June expenditures, $131,950.41. Expenditure reconciliation reports, payments, $41,590.98. Our two payrolls, the June 15th, $39,352.10. So that includes regular employees plus our temps and our outreach. So that's the grand total. June 30th, $34,084.97. Board retirement, $10,281. Medicare, $1,030.19. Board health, $5,385. You'll see our local taxes, employee health, out of pocket for them, $1,340, bringing our total expenditures $131,950.41. Any questions about the payment listing? The top part, you're going to see all of the E-rates. For Edge, Charter Communications, that's all of the E-rate money that I brought in.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Have you had any problems with the water bills here? in Fayetteville?
I don't think so.
Well, the lady that used to do them was my sister-in-law, she retired from them. at the
Oh,
end of the
okay.
year. So thank goodness I can get in my bank account and print out a check. And every month they're charging me like $200.
Hmm. I would have noticed that my PO would have ran out pretty quickly, so I was right on track. Yeah.
Because they, from compare them to what you had paid previously years.
Yeah,
Because, he's, the guy over here with the messed up driveway.
oh, I'm like, Mark? I'll pull a report tomorrow for Fayetteville Utilities and just make sure that it's.
Thank goodness I just exit out and pay the regular bill each
Mhm.
month. And then he'll say to my daughter, who's, I don't know what her role is, really, something. Takes care of the bills, well, not the water bill,
Yeah.
but, you know, other things.
Oh, yeah.
And, he said, well, your mom, she don't even have a bill, it's zero. Yeah, and then I get a bill for $200, so.
Wonder if they're doing budget billing or something.
Yeah, like do this.
Yeah. Fund summary report. I've already mentioned the June expenditures several times, 131,950. Open POs, 114,692.49. You'll notice the ODE-LAL grant fund is sitting at 0. We had to pay and close everything as of June 30th to finish the fiscal year. So
So then you'll do another reimbursement in.
Yeah, we cut off spending
Yeah.
so that we could have
Yeah.
everything closed out and get our, and it actually pushed a reimbursement.
Right,
through.
right, that was that 42,000 that Eric mentioned.
And
so-
now we can start spending again,
awesome.
and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's
So-
not been a real issue, the way they got that set.
No, well,
It's just,
using the web
yeah, it's the.
site is
Challenge.
a challenge, but actually, once we get,
It's not a delay. or-
yeah,
They like to tell us that things are available to, like, I need to open up they called it an FER report to start this fiscal end process, and I clicked everywhere I possibly could, and it's
Like,
I don't know if
Yeah.
it's even rolled out officially, so.
Okay.
Just, that's the biggest learning.
yeah. It's
As soon as you figure it out.
non-education people
it'll
try
be
to
very
use
old.
the
Yeah.
official website is, yeah.
The very last report is a comparison of this year. Actually, you'll see all the way back to 2013. So very similar when it comes to revenue. The PLF compared to last year, 2022, we're up $1,585. So as long as we're going up, I'm happy. Taxes, around $17,000 more compared to 2022. Homestead was slightly down by just $208. Other services slightly up $388. And then other receipts brought in at this point, $1,498. And I do think we received a little bit more money than we did last year for summer reading program donations. So that's where I'm kind of putting that. So all in all, we're up $20,364 in the revenue between last year and this year. So I wrote very similar with an exclamation point. So
What is homestead and rollback?
So, and actually, I was
Yeah.
going to say something because I think that they've made some changes at the state level that impacted local levies and what we get back. But basically, it's kind of a subsidy for, and I don't know exactly how they determine the subsidy because I really don't care at that
Is it
level,
like
how the
county
tax.
subsidies on the county?
It's,
county
yeah, it is.
subsidies?
And so we get a proportionate amount based upon how
Maybe
much we
income
get from the,
driven,
it
yeah.
may be income driven. I'm thinking there might have been something about seniors as well. And I don't,
Yeah.
anybody else who knows more about it than me,
Yeah.
please jump in there.
we definitely care more about the local taxes.
Yeah.
than-
Yeah.
Expenditures, salaries, we are up $45,892. That seems kind of scary, but if you'll remember last year, effective July, the first check in July, that's when we bumped up everybody's salaries significantly. So
Yeah. And when you look at it on a monthly basis, it's what,
It's-
$7,500
yeah, it's
a
not,
month or.
it's just the 6 month, the 6 month picture. Employee benefits up 6,583. Materials, we are up 26,690. That was the most significant bump, I think. Other operating expenditures down 2,700. And then you'll notice that we did have that transfer out that we put into that grant. That's not, we don't normally do a transfer this early in the year. So, let's see. What do I have here? So, and then we have open POs 114,692. So, ending total general expenditure fund $806,450. So all in all, I think we're the snapshot of the year is, it looks pretty good. Any questions about that?
Any questions for Sarah?
I have a quick question for the board, because I wasn't here when you did the salary increase. Was there something set as to when that could be discussed again? Was this like a 5-year to be revisited, or is that every year, like every fiscal year, do we need to review salaries?
Personnel committee.
Typically, we review it before year end. Last year was an outlier because inflation was just crazy and there was many things going on. And I don't believe the year before we had done. We basically for every year you're here, there's an automatic 5 cent.
Like a merit?
Yeah,
A merit, yeah, just for.
loyalty, yeah.
So last year, we did it at mid-year with the understanding that it would not be revisited this year until
New
year
budget,
end.
yeah.
And we'll probably, I think we'll do meet again in
September,
September.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'll roll out to the beginning of 24, if something
Right.
passes.
yeah, yeah.
If something's passing, yeah, typically we try and roll it out to be the first payroll of the new year, but
Yes.
last year was just,
It was crazy.
it was just something that
Yeah.
was.
Well, and everybody-
addressed.
Well, and trying to compete with other business
Oh,
because
yeah,
everybody
you're
else
right,
was
right.
raising their, their wages and yeah, one of the factors in the timing of this year was waiting to see what the state was going to
State
do for a state budget, because that in 60% of our income. So yeah, so now it's actually, I have a note, next week to start preparing some documentation to do various scenarios and see what,
I know that's an issue in the schools
Yeah.
here too, because
yeah.
I know some people in the schools that are making less than fast food restaurants.
Yeah.
Which is.
Well, and that's the hard thing, it's hard to compete when McDonald's says, oh, we get $17.
Yeah.
And well, okay, well, I'm not even gonna try and compete, if you want to work there, then you can, and here's what we have to offer, so.
I like the July increases because it's so hectic. This end of December, early January.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that was nice to be able to do it at that time of the year and then not worry about it, but yeah.
I need a motion to accept financial and investment reports, approve paid bills, and accept donations, please.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, update on the general audit.
Oh, I wish I could give you an update. I worked with the auditor pretty aggressively, it was early in June. Let me give you some dates. She was on vacation the week of June 19th, and then I was on vacation the following week. So I really haven't talked to her since the week of probably a good month. She followed up one time I was on vacation with an email and I sent her the information she needed. I would guess that she's 99% done with the audit, based on how hard we worked together the previous
If she's
week.
not reaching out to you.
Yeah,
The news is good news.
That's what I was.
I need all my boxes back.
Well,
There's been so many questions where I've needed to pull information.
something.
and
She
it's-
still physically
Have
we
that,
have
yeah.
everything,
She,
so-
well, and the person working on it then had to
Yeah.
give her findings to a supervisor.
Yeah.
So we're not sure, and if, she was taking vacation, then somebody else is
Yeah.
taking vacation. I'm not
Yeah.
terribly surprised at how slow.
What I've gathered is she's a newer auditor. In
Mhm.
fact, she did tell me it was her first UAN audit ever. So I think she's relying a lot on her manager Renee, with
Gotcha.
some of you have talked to. So I may reach out to her next week. It's kind of like you don't want to
Right.
poke the bear, like.
Glad you called.
Yeah, no news is good news at this point. So I would imagine it's in that home stretch.
Yeah, and we've had you know, we have not been contacted other than to provide information. There's been no indication that there's any, there are any significant issues. I mean, typically they'll have recommendations
Right.
about something that they would like to see us do, moving forward, but not any findings. And so
Yeah,
I feel pretty good too, that there aren't going to be any surprises if you all haven't been contacted and we haven't been contacted about it at this time.
I think it's just a matter of her supervisor crossing all her T's and dotting her I's at this point.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, next is the executive director's report, building report and statistics.
Okay. So, I'm sure you read on your report by the managers submitted, that things are really, this is crazy busy time. And if you had any specific questions or wanted any feedback, you do have a manager here in person who might be able to give you some feedback, or if Amber, if there's anything that you want them to know,
Not per se, except when looking at the agenda, and I'm not gonna jump ahead, but I think maybe it's nice to like just kind of share this kind of stuff. Number 9, censorship in public libraries. I was a little bit late in here because I was having a lengthy conversation with a patron calling to ask about that very thing. That's not the first time that happened. So just know that, whenever you guys talk about that, that is a very common thing. And right now it's all over the news and all over the media and things like that. And it's already starting to, where we're getting phone calls. So I'm just gonna-
All right, any questions, comments, theories on the building report?
I'll say that, my family and I are ready for trivia on Friday night, and we're gonna kill it. We always lose. Like, they do really strong, and then they go on break, and then we just fall off. We're prepared.
But you're ready. All right.
And I'd like to remind everybody Heather's available.
Wait a minute, I see a chat. Heather got her shed. This is true. If you have not looked closely at the Mount Orab Library, behind the library, very nice cement pad that has the shed on it, but also there's room for all of our garbage cans right alongside it, so they're not blowing away by the wind by the big electric cabinet. So it's, yes, much, much better. Of course, we'd rather have a building that's twice the size and we can have the internal storage, but that's not in my lifetime, I don't think.
And who doesn't love a cute, adorable fox?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some beautiful foxes in Brown County crossing the road.
Right.
On the side of the road. Yeah, just what a beautiful.
Well, if you think fox is cute, you should see the little baby chicks that are now hatching. We've got baby chicks in Mount Orab now, 2 little fluffy ones going peep, peep, peep.
Is Christy Lucas gonna take those? when they? Okay. need to
I
call
believe
her
so.
Because
I
I
don't know
have
that- I don't
3
know the
chicks
details.
that I need to get rid of.
Ah.
My son
I
decided
was
to
just their
eat
mother
it.
this afternoon.
Ah.
How much-
Yeah, somebody will
I'll
come
call
get
Tanya.
them. And one trying to hatch. Well, actually, Heather, there is a wet one that's flopping around in the incubator right now. She'll send you a picture. And then there's another egg that's got a pretty big split. Yeah. Yeah.
It's chirping.
Yep. They are
Ours just hatched last week.
And I will just say, we have a couple of human mother hens, very concerned about their welfare all by themselves without.
They have each.
They do have each other. Yes. Yeah.
It literally it still has a couple pieces of shell on it.
Yes, Michelle's back is all wet and yeah. So it'll stay in the incubator until it gets,
Like, you see,
Fluffy
them
and
up 20
dry.
hours, they don't have to eat.
yeah, and then the other 2 are under a heat lamp in a sawdust shaving. I'm sure some of us like the warmth, but yeah.
Okay, so here's ours,
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
and then this one.
Getting big.
And this, they're only illegal.
Yeah,
grow
they
fast.
do grow very fast. And then they start becoming not so cute because all the fluff goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why this one's cute. Yeah, their names are Humpty Dumpty, Colonel Sanders,
Colonel Sanders.
And then
and
KFC.
Fry Daddy. My 13-year-old said.
Of course. Well, the
Their
UPS.
fate is sealed.
What's that?
I said their fate is sealed if one's name is Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
And pride after that.
You don't, just don't think about it. Just don't think about it.
All right, and then you want any questions for when we go on this?
I'd say go on to statistics unless there's something else that anybody wants to. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. Oh, and Heather went to go see them. Yep, they are cute.
I'm gonna have to go over and
They
see
are
them.
cute. Statistics, just a couple of things to point out, we're halfway through the year, so I look at that next to the last column and, and I kind of multiply it by 2 in my head and look at the last column and make some comparisons. The big thing, interlibrary loan, and, it makes me go, I wonder if we need to check our Excel spreadsheet, make sure calculations are right, because we have already exceeded halfway through the year interlibrary loan. And maybe that's actually, accurate, but it makes me want to go back and do some checking of our numbers, because I kind of go,
It feels accurate.
Well, and that's just it, I know how busy all the buildings are doing, and that's great, because it means people are using the website and the app to order things, or they're calling and asking for assistance, and our staff are recommending, so it's great. It's really, and it's actually back up to where it was, really in its heyday before we started having, budget cuts and transportation carrier problem, that kind of thing. The other thing that I think is really telling is also way down at the bottom, the library visits section, the door count. We're slightly over 40,000 halfway through the year, and last year it was 67,000. So, and we know right now is really busy, but you're looking at June, and July is the full month of summer reading program. So July's numbers will really significantly add to that. And we'll have a couple little lulls in the rest of the year, just as, holidays come and people have other things to do. But if we thought we were busy, the numbers actually bear that out. And then this month you got, because it was the end of a quarter, June was the end of a quarter, you got a few more pages of data than you normally get, so you can actually see the numbers. We always give you the chat numbers and some sample transcripts of what kind of service people are getting through chat, or what kind of questions they're asking. But the same thing with the digital downloads on on one side of the salmon color, we're set to exceed, and this is the way it's been, electronic digital information is becoming more and more popular. Hotspot usage, all right, we just talked about E-rate and that potential, we're in triple digits, in almost every month of the year in terms of how many hotspots are checked out of our buildings. And when you think about the fact we have 60 hotspots and there are 113 circulations, that's where they're really being used. And then it was really nice to see, actually, on the blue, the Brain Fuse, that's our online tutoring and online job assistance. And while May had a little bit of a lull, which we're told by the Brain Fuse people is pretty common, schools are getting out, but we've actually had usage, we've had the homework help was used, and the writing lab was used, and so was the resume lab for the job skills portion of it. So I think word is starting to get out, and the fact that we've got the tutoring going on is a direct link. Our tutors know that this is a resource they can use. So it's nice to see that information.
So 2 questions I have. Remind me again what Hoopla is.
Hoopla is also digital downloads, but it is, rather than it being something through the state, it is an independent subscription that we use, and music, movies primarily. I mean, I think there are audiobooks as well. I have always used it mostly for music to try out new things.
And then my second question is in regards to tutoring. So how would I, let's say Pierce, I wanted to get him algebra tutoring. how would I know what tutors are available and what subjects they can do?
So
Call the
you
library.
just call the library and we will know who we have on hand. And then you might
And
get
also-
also get a referral to Brain Fuse as well to say,
Okay.
okay, we don't have anybody who's
person,
in
yeah.
person who's an expert, but you can do live, you
Okay.
know, it's obviously virtual, but it's
Right.
live with, yeah.
So if I call Amber and there's no one at Sardinia, she could say, hey, there's someone at, Heather has someone at Mount Orr.
We
Or
have
like-
a tutoring intake form,
Yeah.
so we can actually give you a tutoring intake form. And you would put the subjects you're interested in. And then what we've been doing kind of is the tutoring intake form gets returned to the library and then the manager kind of looks to see if it needs to be like shared. You know, to see if there's like another tutor match. I can tell you that our tutor at Sardinia currently, I don't think high school algebra is something she wanted to specialize in,
Right.
so. But if you would like to fill one out, we can double check with.
Yeah, I was
them.
just curious, like, how that
Mhm.
process works. And then I know, like, with back to school and open houses, I wonder if there's an opportunity for the library to be there.
There is, and what's the special event that, did it already happen?
Which one?
Um,
Oh, like,
the resource
I'm
event.
trying to think what it's called.
I know, me too, I can't.
It was at the park,
Oh, building for foundations?
we
Yes, I
actually
think.
gave 50 resource kits to them
Nice.
to give out to people, so at least
Yes.
50 families or.
Because they had a lot, that was more homeschool.
Yes, yeah,
based, right?
yeah. But we go to things like, I mean, every one of our branches makes every effort to go to the school open houses
Mhm.
and have that kind of information there, as well as signing them up for library cards
Right.
and all of that.
But that's huge this year to have
Yeah,
that.
and then Heather also pointed out it's National Night Out, and August 1st apparently is what.
Yeah,
yes,
because
National Night Out.
National, Ni-
National.
so that's, I know in Mount Aura,
This is
not
the
every
first-
community does it.
It's gonna be the first year I think Mount Orr's doing.
Yes, Georgetown's
Georgetown
always,
has,
yeah,
yes.
has done it.
The National Night Out.
So it's not just law enforcement, but it's a resource fair. There's usually a giveaway of school book bags, and they're all at the, the Georgetown Library is doing some backpacks with some basic supplies through a grant that they have. And so, yeah, it's
But it's in second year, they did.
second year. Yeah. Yeah. So.
That's cool.
Yeah, so every place that's already gonna have people there for some reason, we really try to go, okay, who's going to be there and what should we take with us so that we can make be visible and have an impact. And somebody goes, oh, I didn't know the library did that. That's our goal. Good questions.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah.
On to announcements.
Sure. So another thing I handed out to you this evening was a print copy of the announcements. And I won't belabor things, but yes, Heather's shed is there. It looks really nice. You received the community engagement activity report in your packets. I don't know if there was anything there that was anybody had any questions or comments about, or Amber, representative of some of the groups, and Heather is as well, though we won't ask her directly to make any reports, right, Mark?
Right.
Yeah. But otherwise, a couple of things that I wanted to make sure you're aware of. So on the announcements, number 3, the last one, E, last month you had given me permission to enter the letter of intent for the county's ARPA subrecipient grant. And while that was not in your board packets, I did complete that last week, and I gave you a copy of that tonight. That's on the buff paper. And it really, they wanted just a summary of what do we think we would do, if we were awarded a grant. The next phase is, of course, fleshing that out and putting numbers to it. And they actually have a rubric for scoring the grant. So I will be using that to kind of tweak what we've got here. Or if anyone has any other brilliant ideas in the meantime that I could integrate with these, I'm looking at a couple of things that would be really easy for us. For example, the first and the last bullets on that letter of intent, the Wi-Fi access, paying for, that's something we already have established. So if we could pay for it, through the term of the grant period, that would be great. And the same thing, the Job Now, the Brainfuse subscriptions, that would also be, you know, an easy way to pay for it, as long as it doesn't duplicate the timing of our Department of Education grant that also pays for some of this, not all of it. But then the other two things that I look at as priorities are the roof replacement at the 3 branches and putting solar panels on them. I mean, really making it so we can maximize, you know, our utility costs. And then I'd like to see the security improvements as well. You know, we've got old fashioned key locks. I'd like to see keyless entry. I'd like to see cameras going up, but you know, so those would be the things. And as long as they would score high in their rubric, I would keep them in. And, you know, it's $1 million and I don't know who else is going to be applying. So, you know,
And this is a one-time.
this is a one-time thing. Yes. And I believe their time frame was people under contract by the fall of 24 and everything spent by mid 25, perhaps. So,
We could spend it.
well, we've done pretty well getting money and spending it. You know, we go a little bit crazy sometimes because sometimes it's harder to spend money than you might expect, but
And so the money is tagged for community improvement or community service, right? So,
so one of the things that I somewhere the county used in its description revitalization and was one of the big things, but ARPA, which was one of the federal programs, has some very specific things that are more pandemic health long-term related. So meshing those things so you're meeting both goals, that's the tricky spot. How can you sell your project so that it legitimately fits under both of those things? So,
and then where you were talking about withdrew from the participation in the Southeast Appalachian, that's because we're gonna look at the individual with the planners, right?
yes,
So
yes.
it's one, not the other.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
just wanna make
couldn't do
sure.
both. So
Yeah,
it's
just
like,
wanted to make
well,
sure I
this other
remember what
one's
that was
right in
about.
our backyard rather than being
Yeah.
more farther afield. So,
Anything else?
no, that's not.
Thank you. On to committee reports.
None. We haven't had any committees meet.
Number 6, motion to approve the application for ARPA subrecipient grants.
Right, so I showed you the letter of interest and I just explained to you what my focus would be, but we have until August 15th to submit that because I haven't even had feedback from the county about the letter yet. So, but I want your permission to go ahead and pursue something because it will be due before the August board meeting.
Okay, so we need a motion.
I'll move. I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha.
All right, number 7, motion to approve addendum to Forward Edge contract for $6,898 effective 8/1/23.
And this would be an annual. So we have a 3-year contract with Forward Edge right now. They provide all of our network management services. But one of the things we've always struggled with is on-site technology help. Okay, this computer is broken, but it's not just because it's not hooked up to the network. There's something else going on. And that's something that we don't usually have the internal expertise to deal with that. And so they are now in a place where they can provide some of those things. And so it's essentially just for an annual cost of, slightly under $7,000 more added to our contract, they will also provide those kinds of things. So, and they actually did go back and because Forward Edge focuses on helping schools, and we are the first library they've ever worked with. And so actually, we get a really good deal. We're not paying through the nose for their network management services, and they've done a number of things that really fell outside of network management scope and fell into this new category. And so they went back and did some number crunching to see what would be a legitimate cost and, you know, yes, we're still paying far less for their services than,
So what if you need on-site support?
I'm sorry.
Because it says it does not include on-site support. So that is in addition to the on-site support?
Well, so those kinds of things where we have an issue, they will virtually walk us through it or do things, you know, that kind of, because that's what we need. We can, even though we may not have the expertise ourselves, somebody can say, do this, do that,
Right.
do this, try this.
Same in my work.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they're in India.
Yes,
So
exactly.
they come to my house.
But to this point, it's been network level stuff. And now it's, you know, because we've done a couple of times, we've done, okay, we got those 25 Chromebooks, right? So through the grant, we paid them a set fee to do all of those and get them up and running. But that would not have been covered either under, yeah, so, yeah.
And I'm assuming their hours fall like within all library hours.
They do things early, like if they want to take something, the network down or this or that, they will arrange to come after, yeah. And they do a lot of it 24/7 remote monitoring and yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that we haven't had crashes of any kind since they started doing this and they've assessed, you know, they give us a report on the status of our network and okay, guess what? Next year, you're going to need to replace this one, this server, that server. It's better service than we've had in the, probably the whole rest of the time I've been here.
So I'm gonna give them a testimonial. If they get out of business. they'll get-
Yeah, there you go.
So we need a motion, please.
We do.
for Number 7.
I make the motion.
I'll second. And it's the same thing we use in school.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha.
All right, number 8, update on the Ohio plan renewal, which, you know, Lynn and I worked on together. And of course, if you're gonna file a $100,000 water loss,
150.
there's a smidgen of a chance that your rate may go up. And so thus the increase 4-year loss ratio.
So-
1,400.
So what does that mean, that 1,498% loss ratio? I mean, it doesn't look good, but what exactly does it mean?
Okay, it means that the premium that you're paying compared to the amount of dollars they pay out on a claim, that would be the ratio. So I'll give you an example. So with my company, we're at 43%. So companies want their loss ratios to be between 40 and 60%, not 1,400, not 1,000.
I thought, is that in a decimal point?
No, no, it's not.
I've only seen one number higher than that, which was the food truck service industry. So what local food service?
Yeah,
That's the only number I've seen higher than that.
yeah.
Okay. Number 9, which is the censorship in public libraries, library bill of rights introduction. So probably all know.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say, and last month we actually I pulled it directly from the American Library Association. And so I wanted you to see that in our operational policy, we also have that. Now, I did notice that because I don't check it every year, but I check it every couple of years to see whether they've updated their language. And I see that somehow I missed between 2019 and now, I missed the fact that they had updated that some. So I'll be comparing language and we'll update to the most recent version of the ALAs and, just looking at it, I'm thinking, well, I see maybe there's one new added bullet point, but I don't, otherwise the language looks pretty standard, but that will come in a future meeting where we actually, update our operational policy. However, moving forward, there are a lot of sub Bill of Rights things, statement on labeling, service to minors, that kind of thing. So we'll look at each one of those in little small chunks just to say, oh, here's another aspect of how we roll this out and support intellectual freedom and try to make sure that people are not censored with what they can have access to. So that's coming, but I wanted you to see, yes, it is included in our board policy, and we'll be taking a closer look at that.
I'll make a prediction. We will see this come to an end. Maybe in the near future, maybe by the end of this year. Depending upon what goes on in our country with certain investigations. And so there's always been a little bit of pushback historically, libraries. We all remember the Harry Potter scandal. So, I mean, this is not out of the ordinary, but we've never seen it at this crazed magnitude across the entire country.
Yeah.
And it's clearly, whether we will agree or not, is clearly politically driven. So I think you're going to probably see that come to an end. Maybe by the end of the year, and then things will return to normal and people will forget all those horrible books that are out there. So that we've all read.
Yeah.
Our founding fathers would be doing another Boston Tea Party.
Yeah, you think?
So, but thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
And I
no
appreciate that.
problem. No problem.
Okay, number 11, any other business being brought to the table?
You get a big pen.
No. Oh. All right, let me start over again.
Yeah.
It's number 10, can I have a motion to end our executive session?
I'll second it. I thought you just had a game to go watch or something.
Mark?
No, I usually announce that ahead of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Mark?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Barb?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Tabitha?
So Heather did make a comment. It's a concentrated effort, and it is, to be sure that, there are national groups pushing the issue. So, it's not necessarily as localized as it used to be when it comes to book challenges. And I don't know, Amber, if you can comment on your recent without divulging any specifics before we actually.
Yeah. So
Yes.
the patron that called, wanted to know if we were going to offer drag queen story time. And if we were going to have books that were indoctrinating children about their sexual preferences. They also wanted to know if the money that comes from the state came with a list of books that was required for us to purchase because, the government dictates what we have to have if they're going to dangle money over our heads. It was a very deep conversation. Now I will say this is not my first rodeo with this patron. So it did not come as a complete shock. But I was, very clear that we do not censor and that we serve our community. And while we might have things here that he doesn't love, that if we don't feel like it's something that's going to serve our community, for example, indoctrinating children, it's not typically something that we would purchase, right? Because there's not a huge need for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that's just like we would serve people that have same-sex parents or something like that and have a picture book about, something similar in their family or some other sort of informational book. We would have books like the King James Bible or other types of Christian homeschooling books, just as we would have Jewish, books about Jewish families, just as we would have books about Islam families. And I was really adamant that as a public library, we really support the constitutions, and we have I even mentioned our own Bill of Rights, that library Bill of Rights, that we want the freedom to read, the freedom of speech, the freedom of all of these things, and we serve everyone. So he was okay. he did want me, so we'll have to talk a little bit. He wanted some numbers. He wanted to know exactly how much of his tax dollars were going towards the things that he had questions about. And I was like, I can't exactly tell you that, but said I could
I can't
probably
either.
at least, talk to my director about your Brown County tax dollars and how much that affects our library versus the other library system or whatever. So anyways, yeah, so that's kind of the thing that we have to deal with fairly frequently. I feel like we're getting conversations like that. And I assured him that if we didn't have books he was looking for also, that we're part of a consortium and we could certainly probably find them, but because we're small, we can't keep all those things ourselves. So
I would say that, of course, I don't know what you can and can't say because you have to be very objective, but in my opinion, censorship begins in the home, and the library's role is not to teach or persuade, but to give you the tools that you need to make your own decisions.
we've definitely had that exact.
Can you have
conversation before.
can you say that? Is that too political or?
We don't really say it. I wouldn't say I've actually said those words, but I've had that exact conversation before.
Yeah.
So we had a mother, I'll give you super quick, so you're not bogged down, but I had a mother come to me not that long ago saying that her daughter checked out an American Girl book that talked about what Black Lives Matter, and she doesn't promote Black Lives Matter in her home, and why would we have a book about that? And I actually said, we can't read every book, right? We don't know what every book has. We do research on all of our books in general. So that book was on a list somewhere it was a bestseller, right?
Right.
So we bought it because it's American Girl, it's
Right.
safe.
Yeah.
And I actually said, if you're really concerned about content, because we don't censor, certainly read the book first and let her know if it's appropriate.
Correct.
for her.
Yes.
That's her
Yes.
role
Yeah.
in the home.
And actually, we won her over to the other side.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
being able to say, oh, now I see why you have books for everybody. So that was a great.
Good. That's awesome.
And that really is we are here to provide information on all, where it says in the Library Bill of Rights, all points of view, and it's always, we don't act in the stead of the parents. It is up to each individual parent to decide what it is, and we would gladly help them do research so that they can explore, and get more information, but
We're not here to push agendas.
no, we are not.
And it's America.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you don't like the Harry Potter books,
Then
you
don't
don't
read
read them.
them,
And if you
yes.
don't like them, then you don't let your children.
Children,
read them.
exactly.
You go to the
Well, you don't
library.
want
Yes.
them to read that.
Yes.
You don't go to
Yes.
the library and say, "Oh, Amber, why do you have Harry Potter?"
Yes,
I mean,
well,
it's
yeah.
America, you have choices and you
Mhm.
just do it.
Mhm.
Leave the rest of
We
us
need
alone.
to start pushing that more in our schools too. The school is not there to push an agenda, which we're trying to do. It's there to educate so others can make their
Yeah.
decisions. Sorry.
No,
Okay.
and
That particular patron actually asked me if I knew if the school worked the same way that we did. So
yeah.
it was on their agenda to
Yes.
think about it.
Right, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it's very parallel.
Yeah,
And there's definitely some political overtures in those conversations as
Absolutely.
well.
right.
which
And
helps.
it's our job to remain neutral and to
100%.
not, it's hard sometimes to keep ourselves from getting dragged in, but
Yes.
and
You've
you
got
find
to
yourself
love it.
repeating yourself a number of times on that same mantra of whatever it is that we have to say.
Not through it.
But I will just, take the time to say this out loud because I know Heather is also online. It's just, if you get those kinds of things, particularly where it's mentioning the drag queen story times, let me know, because I know Ohio Library Council is very interested in keeping tabs on which libraries are getting contacted about that particularly, because that's one of those national
Yes.
agenda type
It's got
topics.
stuff
We
like
came
that.
market a little notch for today.
It's almost, because in the insurance industry, we have to keep a complaint log. And I'm wondering, is that something we should be tracking or keeping,
I think maybe for censorship issues that, general complaints, they're probably way too many for, it's too cold, it's too hot, whatever it is. But I think that for the censorship, since we're making that a topic of conversation, I think that would be very handy to keep a little log
You
of.
have like a
a
FAQ one for other
censorship
things?
complaint log.
Like all the staff have a consensus way of responding to certain questions.
A lot of times they go, We'll put you on hold and let you talk to our manager.
right.
That's like what they did today. As soon
Yeah.
as staff.
So you, Tanya and Heather kind of like have your consensus again.
Yeah.
I don't think you want your general staff fielding those questions.
Right, exactly. It puts them in and they're not don't all feel comfortable with it, or nor do they have the level of training that the management team does. So this one particularly, but it depends upon the topic, it really does, where that FAQ is. It's, yeah.
It's just,
And-
it's
and
above my
we-
pay grade.
We knew this was coming.
Oh, absolutely.
brought
we do.
this up
That's why
a
we've
year
been
ago.
talking about it,
Yeah,
right?
a year ago, we knew it was coming.
Yes, yeah,
Brown County, the rural communities are usually last.
yes, yeah.
And then it's finally made it and it's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so now we are in executive session, so I'll just ask if the managers who are with us have anything else that they want to say, need to say before we say goodbye.
I do have another tutoring intake form if anybody else needs one. I gave one to.
And I will go ahead and turn off the YouTube.
Thank you.
Stop.
I just wanted to say thank you for my shed.
Yes,
It looks really nice.
it does.
I haven't let anybody touch it yet. I told the staff not to touch it.
You'd be shocked how quickly it
Fills up, well.
I know.
Yeah, we'll have to do a spring cleaning thing, I think, and
Yep.
yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Heather, appreciate it.
Lynn, if you wouldn't mind double checking that the door shuts all the way.
Absolutely, I
It's not
usually
fixed
do.
by Keith, but we're keeping an eye
On
on
it, I'm very good. All right, let me make
it.
sure.
See you guys later.